They're waiting for you on the other side of sleep. Friends, imagine for a moment this picture. You are lying in bed, breathing evenly, your heart beating calmly, your body relaxed as if submerged in deep warm water. But suddenly you realize you are no longer in your room. You are standing on the edge of a boundless sea under a black sky dotted with stars that are not on earthly maps. And someone invisible whispers words into your ear that you have never heard, yet somehow understand without any effort. And when you wake up, those words have already vanished from memory like smoke. But the feeling remains. You were somewhere else. You communicated with someone who knows you better than you know yourself. And this is not a hallucination, not a fantasy, not a delirium of a sick brain. It repeats again and again with different details, but always with the same compelling authenticity, as if you are returning home to a place that remembers you even if you have forgotten it. Today, we will embark on a journey that requires no tickets, no passports, or even opening your eyes. A journey deep within yourself, to where your consciousness goes every time you fall asleep. And this is not a metaphor, not a poetic image, but a real, measurable, yet still largely unexplored phenomenon, where neurochemistry, ancient mystical traditions, quantum theory, and the personal testimonies of thousands of people around the world, all claiming the same thing. In sleep, we don't just rest, we travel, we learn, we meet, we remember things that logically never happened, and we receive warnings about what is not yet come to pass. You were probably taught in school that sleep is simply a resting phase for the brain, a necessary biological process during which the body restores resources and neurons sort information, like postal workers in the basement of a large building distributing letters into memory boxes. But what if this is merely a convenient simplification, designed to lull our curiosity, like a child being told that thunder is angels moving chairs so they don't ask about lightning? What if, in reality, sleep is not just rest, but the most active and important period of our lives, when consciousness leaves the prison of the flesh and breaks free into spaces that physics calls hypothetical and shamans call home? Let's start with what science already knows, but rarely brings to the forefront, because it challenges the very concept of reality as something fixed and objective. At the moment you fall asleep, your brain does not become dormant, as many people think, but on the contrary, transitions into an entirely different form of activity, and the first thing that happens is the slowing of alpha waves and the appearance of theta waves, the very ones that dominate in children under 5, in meditating monks, and in people in a state of deep creative inspiration. And it's interesting that it is in this state that images begin to surface, similar to those described by people who have had near-death experiences. A tunnel, light, a sensation of leaving the body. And what is even more curious, people who have never heard of such experiences report the exact same elements, as if the brain is accessing a universal archive embedded in the very structure of consciousness, like a factory firmware in the device we call ourselves. And now let's move on to the pineal gland, a tiny pea-sized organ hidden deep in the center of your brain, which Descartes called the seat of the soul, and which modern science long considered a vestigial organ, an evolutionary relic, until Dr. Rick Strassman conducted a series of experiments in 1994 that changed the entire understanding of consciousness. He administered DMT, dimethyltryptamine, a powerful natural psychedelic that is produced in minute quantities specifically by the pineal gland, to volunteers, and the results were astonishing. Over 80% of participants described not just hallucinations, but encounters with intelligent entities, machinists, guides, engineers, as they called them, who transmitted information, taught them, showed them technologies that do not exist on Earth, and all of them independently of each other, used the same epithets: living geometric structures, language without words, a feeling that I had been there before. Strassman hypothesized that the pineal gland releases DMT not only at the moment of birth and death, but also every night during the rapid eye movement or REM phase of sleep. And if this is true, then what we call sleep is, essentially, a regular dose of a natural psychedelic administered by our own body to allow consciousness to transcend sensory limitations and enter an alternative state of being. And then a logical question arises. Why would evolution need to create such a complex mechanism if it carries no practical utility? Why expend energy on creating a substance that disconnects us from reality if reality is all we have? Perhaps it is because the reality we perceive during the day is only a simplified, filtered version of what actually exists, like the interface on a smartphone that conceals the millions of lines of code governing the device. And sleep is the moment when the filter is temporarily disabled, and we gain access to the source code, to those layers that are usually hidden behind the noise of external stimuli. And this is why we so often see solutions in our dreams to problems we struggled with during the day, receive ideas that seem divinely inspired, or recall the faces of people we've never met, but who give us chills and tears for no explained reason. Take, for example, the story of the famous chemist Auguste Kekulé, who struggled for a long time to unravel the structure of the benzene ring until one day he dreamt of a snake biting its own tail, the symbol of the Ouroboros, known since ancient Egypt, and upon waking he immediately drew the cyclic formula that changed all of organic chemistry. Or the story of the composer George Friedrich Handel, who, while in deep depression and having almost completely lost faith in himself, slept for a week without waking, and upon arising took up his pen and in 3 weeks wrote the oratorio Messiah, including the famous Hallelujah chorus, which he himself later called "not my composition, but a gift from on high." Or a very recent case, an engineer named David from California who in 2021 received a clear three-dimensional model in a dream of an engine running on compressed air without fuel, and when he tried to assemble it, it turned out to violate the laws of thermodynamics. Yet it works, though only in his lab for now, and the patent has still not been filed because the scientists from MIT to whom he showed the blueprints chose not to comment, only asking him not to rush with publication. Now let's talk about precognitive dreams, not those that can be attributed to coincidence, but those that are so precise in detail that denying their predictive power becomes simply awkward. Take the case of President Abraham Lincoln, who 2 weeks before his death told friends that he had dreamt of himself lying in a coffin in the White House, with mourners gathered around. And one of them asked, "Who is dead?" And he was answered, "The president. He was killed." Or the story of Mark Twain, whose brother died in a steamboat explosion. And a few weeks before the tragedy, Mark dreamt of everything down to the smallest detail. His brother lying in a metal coffin, dressed in a white suit with a scarlet camellia in his lapel, and even the coffin number, 156. And when he attended the funeral, everything matched, literally down to the last button. But the most striking thing is not isolated incidents, but the statistics. In 1972, as part of the Dream Monitoring Project at a university in Chicago, over 20,000 nightly reports were collected from volunteers, and when researchers compared them with real events of the subsequent days, they found that about 7% of the dreams contained elements that with high probability predicted future events, and not general hints like "I will see water," but specific details, a bus number, a stranger's last name, the text of a newspaper article that appeared 3 days later. And what is especially strange is that such dreams most often occurred not in the deep sleep phase, but in what is called hypnagogia, the transitional state between wakefulness and sleep, when the brain is not yet completely disconnected from the external world, but has already begun to generate internal images. And at this moment, it's as if a window opens, a short slit in time through which one can glimpse forward, like looking through a gap in the curtains in a theater where the lights haven't come on yet, but the actors are already on stage rehearsing the finale. Now, imagine that time is not a line, as we are taught from childhood, but a surface, like an ocean. And by day, we sail on a raft, seeing only one wave at a time. But at night, when consciousness plunges into the depths, it begins to feel the entire mass of water beneath it. And in this depth, everything, past, present, and future, exists simultaneously, like layers in a geological cross-section. And dreams are simply moments when we touch other layers, remembering what has not yet happened or forgetting what has already passed. Because for the deep consciousness, there is no difference between was and will be, there is only is. And then precognitive dreams cease to be a paradox and become a natural consequence of our nature as beings capable of non-linear perception. Another phenomenon that science still cannot explain is sleep paralysis, a state in which a person wakes up but cannot move and often sees an alien presence nearby, a shadow in the corner of the room, a creature on their chest, voices in their head. And although official medicine calls this a disruption of the transition between sleep phases, many who have experienced it more than once claim that it is not a hallucination but an encounter, and always with the same entity, which has a name, a character, even a history. And in some cultures, such as among the Inuit in Alaska or the Mongols on the steppe, such entities are called night guides, and it is said that they come not to frighten, but to test the student's readiness for the next level of understanding. And if the person does not panic, but asks, "Who are you? Why are you here?" then the entity may answer. And these answers, collected in anthropological reports, are strikingly similar. "I am the one who remembers you. I am here to remind you, you have not truly woken up yet." It is particularly intriguing that during sleep paralysis, many people experience a sensation of vibration throughout their body, first in their fingertips, then in their spine, then throughout their entire body, as if their body is tuning in to a different frequency. And if at this moment one does not resist but relaxes and lets go, the so-called out-of-body experience occurs, not metaphorical but literal, when the person feels themselves leaving their physical body, sees themselves from the side, flies through walls, enters other places, and sometimes other people, also in a similar state, come to these places, and an exchange of information takes place between them, which can later be verified upon waking. "Were you in my dream yesterday?" "Yes, I saw you by the river." "It wasn't a river, but a canal in Amsterdam." "I've never been there, but you described the lantern with a crack in the glass." "I checked today, it's there." Interestingly, neuroimaging confirms this. During a lucid dream, the same areas of the brain are activated as during high-level meditation. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for self-reflection, and the angular gyrus, associated with the sense of self. And what is particularly noteworthy is that at the moment of lucidity in the dream, brain activity sharply increases, almost to the level of wakefulness, but the body remains paralyzed, as if consciousness gains complete freedom, but only on the condition that the flesh does not interfere. This is why the Tibetan tradition says, if you cannot control your dream, how will you control your death? And now, the strangest thing. In 2019, a group of scientists from Oxford University conducted an experiment in which participants were trained to control lucid dreams, and then, while in that state, they were given a task to perform simple arithmetic operations, for example, 2 plus 3, and asked to convey the result through prearranged eye movements, right-left for the number 5, up-down for the number 6, and so on. And in 37% of the cases, participants successfully transmitted the correct answers, which proves that in sleep, consciousness not only retains logical functions, but can also interact with the external world through limited channels. And if we can count in a dream, why can't we read, write, communicate, or even receive information from other sources? And here we arrive at the most audacious hypothesis, which is increasingly being voiced by both scientists and mystics. What if dreams are not just projections of our subconscious, but actual journeys into parallel realities described in quantum mechanics as the multiverse? According to the Everett interpretation, every decision we make gives rise to a new branch of the universe, and somewhere there exists a world where you turned left instead of right, said yes instead of no, stayed with that person instead of leaving. And if consciousness is not tied to one body as we think, but rather is a field permeating several realities simultaneously, then sleep is the moment when this field temporarily switches to another branch, and we see how our other version lives. And sometimes, very rarely but it happens, we bring something back from there, an idea, a feeling, a warning. And then it is explained why some dreams cause such a strong sense of déjà vu, because it is not an illusion, but a memory from another life where events went differently. But you are the same observer, just in a different shell. There was a stunning case described in Dr. Judy Gardner's book, The Dream-Wise Sages. A woman named Elena, living in Toronto, saw the same dream for many years. She was walking through the narrow streets of an old city where the houses were decorated with blue tiles, and in the square stood a fountain in the shape of 3 women holding a bowl. And each time she felt not just nostalgia, but a homely warmth, as if returning to a place where she had been happy. And one day, deciding to check, she showed a drawing of the fountain to a historian, who immediately recognized it. It was a fountain in the city of Fez in Morocco, built in the 13th century, and when she traveled there, she not only recognized every street, but also approached a specific door, knocked, and an elderly woman opened it, who upon seeing her burst into tears and said, "My daughter. She died in childbirth 50 years ago, but you are her exact replica." And it turned out that the daughter died in childbirth in 1972, the day Elena was born in Canada, and she had a birthmark on her body in the same place as the photograph of the deceased girl. And both loved the same scent, jasmine and cinnamon. And when Elena entered the house, she immediately found a secret drawer in the old chest of drawers in the bedroom, a drawer that only the family in the city knew about, and in it lay a doll that she had seen in her dreams dozens of times, only now it was broken, just as in the last dream, where the doll fell from the shelf and lost an arm. Such cases are called past life memories, but what if they are not past lives, but parallel ones? What if death is not the end, but simply a change of channel, and dreams are moments when the receiving frequency of consciousness shifts and we catch a different signal, a different version of ourselves, a different story? And then the near-death experience is not a transition to an other world, but a complete switch when the body can no longer serve as a conduit and consciousness remains in the reality where it has already been at night. And this leads us to the next level, to the question, what is the self anyway? We are used to thinking that our self is a product of the brain, an illusion created by neural connections. But what if the brain is not the source of consciousness, but its antenna? What if consciousness exists independently, like radio waves in the air, and the brain simply tunes into a specific frequency, the frequency of this body, this life, this time? And when we sleep, the antenna weakens the signal and begins to catch other frequencies, other broadcasts, and then it is explained why children under 4 often talk about other mothers and other homes, and why these memories disappear with age. Because the brain tunes in more precisely, filters more strongly, and consciousness begins to identify itself with only one channel, forgetting that it can receive many. In this context, it becomes understandable why, in old age, when the brain begins to falter, people start seeing the dead again, talking to them, hearing music that isn't there, not because they are losing their minds, but because the filter is weakening and consciousness is returning to its natural state, multi-point, unrestricted, free. And then, death is not a catastrophe, but a return to the full picture, like taking off glasses that have limited the field of vision all your life. Now imagine that our everyday reality is the longest dream, and nighttime dreams are moments of awakening, and everything we consider real, work, relationships, worries, plans, is simply a plot in which we play a role. But at night, we step behind the scenes, return to the dressing room where those who know us without the mask are waiting, and they remind us, don't forget, it's just a performance. You are not the character, you are the actor. And tomorrow there will be a show again, but you can always step out during the intermission. And then the most important question arises: how do we learn to remember these intermissions? How do we not lose touch with who we truly are when we return to the stage? The answer, perhaps, lies in simple things that ancient traditions have passed down for centuries. Keeping a dream journal immediately after waking, even if you only remember fragments. Asking yourself the question before sleep: who am I really? Not as a philosophical truism, but as a genuine inquiry, like pressing a call button. Practicing reality checks during the day. For example, looking at a watch, looking away, looking again. If the time is changed chaotically, you might be dreaming, and this trains awareness. And most importantly, treating dreams not as meaningless noise, but as messages, as a dialogue. Because if even 1,000% of what we have discussed is true, then you are not alone. You are being heard, and every night someone is waiting for you on that shore of silence to say what cannot be said during the day. Because sleep is not an escape from reality, sleep is a return to it, to the real one, the one where you are not limited by a name, age, profession, or body, where you are pure consciousness, capable of any experience, any form, any love. And if tonight you go to sleep with the thought, I am not afraid to leave, I know where I am going, then, perhaps for the first time in a long time, you will not just fall asleep, you will wake up. Try it. Tomorrow morning, as soon as you open your eyes, don't turn on your phone. Don't get up immediately, but lie there for another minute and ask yourself one question that changes everything. What if I haven't woken up yet? And listen closely, because the answer is already inside you. It has always been there. It's just too noisy during the day to hear it.